welcome to Empowering Moments with Coach T right here on Intellectual Radio at .com. And I am your host, Toria Reneé, a.k.a. Coach T, and you are listening to IntellectualRadio.com. This is a show that provides you a fresh perspective on life's challenges, giving you information that is valuable today and years to come so that you are able to walk out your journey to become the very best version of yourself. Introducing me, of course, I am your show host. I am a women's empowerment coach. I'm a motivational speaker, relationship coach, wedding officiant, best-selling author of the book Networkology, and of course, I am a radio personality right here on radio on IntellectualRadio.com. So you are tuned in to the first show in the Sistahs Speak segment for the year 2025, and this is where we gear the conversation to all things women and the challenges that we face. The purpose is to always empower our ladies to improve, learn, and grow so that they are showing up their very best selves, okay, on a daily basis. So, happy Women's Month. We at the end almost, but happy Women's Month. All right. So I honor you. I recognize you. You are many layers, roles, dreams. I acknowledge the various challenges you face. Do not diminish your experiences, and I applaud your bravery, your resilience, and your strength and courage, your ability to shape, shift, and transform and recover and flourish with grace. Today, I salute you. So, today, I want to talk about the aspects that define us and how we navigate the complexities of our roles and aspirations as women. We will explore the personal, professional, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of a woman's life. And helping me unpack this heavy topic today is the greatest co-pastor in the whole wide world. All right, on this side of heaven, y'all. Okay, so co-pastor of New Harvest Ministries International, and she is back for the second time as a guest, and the beautiful, sweet the peaches powerhouse, Pastor Shonda
Hey
Burns.
guys. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
I love her. My grandmother used to, my auntie used to always call her I call her sweet the peaches. And I'm like, she's so sweet. So thank you so much for coming back and hanging out with me and intellectual at intellectualradio.com studios. Get ready, y'all, for an amazing show today as we unpack the pieces of us as women. So we're gonna get right on into it. So, from a personal growth and relationship, career path, and health, and the pieces that make up women's identity are ever evolving, so much so that it can be overwhelming to manage it all. So, let's start with the personal and professional pieces of a woman as I see them blending together in most instances. So, focusing on three main aspects that I think are critical to the Black experience of womanhood. The first thing is beauty standards and self image. Black women are faced with a lot of societal pressures for to conform or to be what mainstream beauty tells you that you should be, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for the texture of our hair, the skin tone, the body shapes, and we're multifaceted in that way, right? I always tell people, hey, when I used to work in corporate and I used to have all these different hairstyles. And they be like, what is going on? I'm like, baby, if I tell you the secret, I have to kill you, okay? Because I can come up here one day and have braids, the next day have a whole new look, and you be like, what? You just had braids, boo boo.
Yes.
This is a wig, but I can't tell you that because y'all don't understand. So we have that flexibility about us, but it's often misunderstood. Sometimes it's misplaced. So a couple of things I want to get into. How does navigating and challenging societal standards of beauty impact Black women's sense of identity and confidence?
As I was thinking about this question, and good morning, ladies, as you're getting on, please share it with all of your followers. I believe that many of us have internal struggles because of external pressures, because of external expectations, things that we've experienced based on our beauty, based on our uniqueness. And we've been judged by it. We've been pigeonholed, if you will, because of it. Because of it, even what you said in corporate America, I can show up. Perfect example. I went to work yesterday with my own hair, weeks I've had a sew in. Sometimes I have braids. And it brings a level of judgment because it shouldn't be even a conversation. And so I think all of that has caused us to be judged. But I believe the more that we are anchored in purpose and anchored in, and because I'm a faith based person, anchored in who God established me to be before I was even birthed in the earth, the more we are anchored in that and settled in, He created me to look like how I look, to walk the way that I walk, my hair texture, my skin, my nose, my everything about me was predestined. And the more that I become settled in that, it brings a different level of confidence. Um, and you have to get to a place where I don't want to change my nose. I don't want to change anything about me. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, dark skin, all of these things that have been judged. You will become settled in your own uniqueness once you're anchored in purpose.
That is so good that you say that because I know for me for a very long time I was like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, da
Mhm.
da 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 da. And then one day I was just like, you know what? I don't know what we're going through all these changes for, baby. When you look at the whole picture together
Mhm.
and you get it together, boo boo, can't nobody you. My friends have always said she thinks she Halle Berry. My friends, she thinks she Halle Berry.
But the thing about it, I don't. I think I know that I'm Shonda.
Exactly. I know that
And
I'm
I'm
me.
confident in the fact that I'm Shonda, but that's an evolution of understanding purpose. There are people that are assigned to me in the earth the way that I look because they look like me and they're struggling with how they look. But I can give them an example of what freedom looks like and being confident in my skin. But that was a process to get to that place because I grew up in a time where what you saw on TV didn't look like me. What I saw in the workforce, as far as people that had authority, women that had a seat at the table that could make decisions, they didn't look like me. They looked like our counterparts, but they were African American. And so they were trying to say the only people that I will give access to are the people that almost look like us. And so once you become settled in, God created me this way. And even if you're not a faith-based person, this is how I was created. Whatever your creator looks like, this is how I was created. And becoming settled in that, there's a confidence in nobody looks like me. There's a
Yes.
boldness in nobody looks like me. Like the two
Yes.
snaps and a twist. Like
Yes.
nobody looks like me. And I can show up in confidence in that and not looking at that nobody looks like me. That's a different level of understanding of purpose. Nobody looks like me. And so, because of that fact, I have purpose. Because of that fact, God has armed me with something to do in the earth that nobody could do like me because I'm the only me.
That unique factor
Mhm.
changes the game. When you come into a realization and a knowledge of the unique factor about you, it changes the game because I feel like once I realize, I'm like, can't nobody do it like me. Can't
Mhm.
nobody say it like I say it. Can't nobody act it out like I do. Can't nobody walk in a room and nobody can do it like me. Like you cannot ever be me.
But we have to see that uniqueness as a positive
Uh-huh.
and not as a difference that brings judgment. And for so long, the dark skin thing was a huge thing. It was you're cute to be dark.
You pretty to be dark skinned. That's like one of them backhanded comments.
But you know what? It came within our community.
Right.
It didn't come from outside of the community.
Yes.
And so that constant coming against my purpose, coming against my identity, coming against how I was born, those are the things that make us quiet and retreat and suffer and deal with rejection and deal with all these things because people are coming against our uniqueness. But when you become resolved in it, you'll show up and that'll be judged too, because it'll be judged as arrogance. But it's I'm settled in purpose.
So, real quickly, three things a person can do to become settled in their uniqueness.
Number one is acceptance, accepting it, identifying things about you that are different and accepting it. Um, so accepting it, using it almost as the word that comes to my mind is as an accelerant
Mm.
for access, because there have been times that I've never seen anybody like you in an interview. That's why you need me, because you haven't experienced a
So it
person like
becomes a
me.
competitive advantage.
Yes, a competitive advantage. Come
Awesome.
on, come on. So
Yes.
acceptance, using our uniqueness as a competitive advantage, and walking in our authority in purpose. Learning how to do that in our uniqueness. I don't have to look like anybody else, but that's a growth. That's maturity. That's learning from the things that I've suffered because of my uniqueness, and getting to a place where, man, I don't want to change it. I don't want to be like anybody else. I don't want to I was talking to my mother as I was preparing for this. Even growing up as a teen, there was a product, and I don't want to say the name of it. I don't even know if it still exists, but there was a cream that you can use. It was to lighten dark spots. So I won't say the name of
I
it,
know it.
but it was to change your uniqueness. It's because you didn't really have a dark spot. People start putting on their entire face and they became lighter,
Yes.
because we were taught being lighter was the acceptance.
And some of this goes back to the things that we endured, that our forefathers
Mhm.
endured.
Yeah, that's a whole
Because
whole
that's a whole
nother
nother show,
that's a
right?
whole nother show.
Right. So then some of this ideology comes from that, because
Mhm.
it's like light skin was right. That was because you could pass.
But if you go back even further, light skin was a part of them, because they were
Absolutely,
light
because
skinned
where did it
because
come from? Most of
Mhm.
the time, it came from the infiltration that they started.
So it's the thing you love and the thing you equally hate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what role do community and family play in shaping Black women's self image, and how can these support systems encourage confidence in their natural beauty?
I do believe our families should affirm our beauty, affirm our uniqueness, affirm, and there is something that a mother could do, I believe, that no one else could do. You could have multiple children and celebrate their differences. So that affirmation is key. Um, and I sadly, no matter how much we are affirmed, w- the rejection outside of the house sometimes still fights against what we already knew.
And it's always louder.
It's always louder, especially when you go off to college, you go off to, even being at high school, and you can come home and tell your parents what they said. And what do your parents say? They say, "Well, that's not how I feel about you. I've always said that you're beautiful." But we start dismissing the voices. And they don't carry as much weight.
Because we want the validation from another source. Like
Yeah.
we want everyone to see this wonderfulness that our parents see. Like I
Mhm.
want the whole rest of the
But
world to
we
see it,
dismiss it because
because
we
our
think, well,
because
that's just mama.
we feel like our parents are obligated to say that. Like,
Mhm.
y'all supposed to say that because
Yeah.
I'm your daughter. But the people outside have no connection to me. They are experiencing
Yeah.
me for the first time on their own merit, without having
Mhm.
any blood ties to me. If they don't think this about me, then now I have to question it, because my mom and dad is supposed to say it. So I think that becomes the issue. And I think that we need to learn how to take um, that affirmation from our parents as law, and make everybody else come to the standard.
And the thing too, I grew up in a place where my mom was extremely affirming, but everybody in my family wasn't affirming, because you had people saying things to you. And as a kid, you didn't even realize they
Ooh,
were saying negative things. My mom just thought we were the prettiest kids, beautiful kids. But I had an uncle that called me Sambo. So then I have to research, what does that mean? Because I'm just thinking that's so
that
sweet.
is so mean.
But I didn't know that it was mean. And so, as much as I just think people need to be slow to speak and quick to hear, because we say things, and everybody grew up with what is it, sticks and stones
May
may
break
break
my
my
bones,
bones.
but words will never hurt me. And that is just not
And you
true.
can talk to a 50-year-old woman that still is plagued with the lack of affirmation from their family. Or when you talk to them, they were affirmed by their mom, but they weren't affirmed by their dad because of his lack of presence. So you look for it in uncles that they weren't taught to give it. So I think we have to live intentional as parents, as aunties, as cousins, or whatever, and understanding that I have a responsibility. I don't always think we led responsibly, because my uncle said things when my dad wasn't present. You would think they would have stepped up, and they didn't. Some of them did, some of them didn't. But we fight through that as adult women,
Yes.
as teenage women. So I believe it's pivotal that our families understand, I'm going to affirm her. I'm going to say what she needs. I'm going to be intentional about affirmation, intentional about loving. But most of them weren't taught to do that. They never
Yes.
saw it modeled. They weren't affirmed. So we repeat the cycle. But we talked about it before, but it stops with us. It stops with us because we're going to live in intentionality that I am going to, man, how I affirm my daughter, she just thinks, okay, okay, mama. But one day she's going to realize, she's going to hear my voice when she's
When she
facing,
really, really
when
need
she
it,
really needs it, when she's away from me,
she's
when
gonna hear
somebody
it.
is telling her no, and she's going to know that's not
No,
true.
no,
I'll
ma'am.
go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
I'll do something different. I'll go to a different school. I'll date somebody else,
She gonna learn it
because she's
quick.
going to see, like, no, that's not, I'm not anchored in that. And so I think we have to be intentional about affirmation, intentional about showing our children different experiences, and coming back and talking about it, exposing them to things, coming back home, and not thinking that that's what other nationalities do, but we're going to come back and have a conversation. Expose them to trauma in a safe place.
That is
Come on,
so key.
expose them. Take them to a march. Take them to a place where they're going to experience racism, but with you, the safe place, and then come back home and talk about it, and arm them with tools that can help them function without you.
I love how you said that because that's one of the things that my cousin did. She has three boys,
Mhm,
and we went to Atlanta and we went to the Martin Luther King
mhm,
building, and you can go and actually sit at the
mhm,
bar tables and experience kind of what it was like to be doing the boycott at the lunch tables.
mhm.
And the boys were like,
It's life changing.
each one of them had different reactions, but it was really, really good because they were able to work through that with their parents
Mhm.
in real
In
time.
real time, in a safe place, so when they're away from us, they are prepared. It's just like going to school. Uh, when I was in nursing school, all of the experiences were for my experience as a nurse. So we don't do that in life. Expose your kids to different things, nieces, nephews. When you see that there's a single mom in your family, be an extension of her for those kids so they can have different experiences. I would take my nephews to fancy restaurants to teach them how to eat properly.
My grandmother did that with us.
And so they would think, okay, auntie. But then as adult men, they're
You
like, I
use
remember
it.
that.
You use it. I'm telling y'all, you use
I
it.
mean, they might need it for a job interview.
Yes.
Instead of sitting in the actual moment with with the interviewer, you've already done that. And so I think it's very important that we, as Black women that are raising men, that are going to raise women, that we're intentional about bringing them up in the way they should go. And that isn't always just spiritual.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I think those are really some really, really key points, y'all. Keep up. I'm telling you, we going somewhere. Okay, so I want to get into intersectionality and the complexity of identity.
Mhm.
And I looked this up and I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like,
It
wow.
messed me up. So let me
Mhm.
give y'all a little bit of heads up so y'all can understand where we're going. Before we delve into this, okay, so the term was coined by scholar Kimberly Crenshaw in the late 1980s, and she developed a framework for understanding how different aspects of persons' um, identities, such as race, gender, class, disability, religion, and other social categories, interact and overlap to create unique experiences of privilege and or oppression. The primary focus is on how various social identities interact and how this shapes people's experiences. So when it comes to Black women, specifically, experience discrimination due to both race and gender. So I'm Black and I'm a woman. And somehow that labels me to be double marginalized
Mm-hmm.
in society. So these experiences intersect in ways that create distinct challenges through powerful societal systems like racism, sexism, classism, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
which makes the concept of intersectionality crucial to understanding the experience of Black women. We often navigate multiple aspects of our identity simultaneously: race, gender, class, and more. This intersection creates unique challenges and opportunities that shape how Black women experience the world differently than other groups. Now, having said that, so,
And
and
that
you and
was
I
a whole
talked,
lot.
yeah, that's a lot, right? So you and I talked previously
Yes.
previously about how we compartmentalize all these aspects of our lives. And I think that's a coping mechanism, and it speaks to the concept of intersectionality. How do you see that connection here?
I see it in the sense that it is a behavior that was taught. We have been taught to survive. My generation, I would say, my parents' generation were taught to survive and not necessarily to live. And so it's an unlearning to relearn. So unlearning bad behaviors. When I was looking at Crenshaw's, how she talks about the multiple identities, she talked about race, gender, class, sexuality, and how they all intersect, which create unique experiences. Right? She talked about of privilege or oppression. What happens when every aspect of you have experienced oppression? As a woman, as a Black woman,
Oh,
as a depending on your class, every aspect of you have experienced this level of oppression. We have learned to compartmentalize to survive. As I was reviewing this, I'm like, Lord, where did we learn this? We learned it from slavery. So we're experiencing the fruit of it, the fruit of slavery, because you were a woman living, working in the house with the master. So you had to sleep with him and come home and sleep with your husband.
oh gosh.
If that's not compartmentalization,
Woo!
what is? You
How
had
do
to
you
learn to
do it?
separate yourself from the trauma,
Mm.
but the trauma was innately still on the inside of you. So we learned this through the things we've suffered. We've learned, we watched this show we were talking about. I can't even think of the name. Scandal. We look at her life, and I know that's older, but as I was studying this, I'm like, man, I see this often. She was phenomenal at her job, but struggled in relationships.
I was so, let me tell you something. As much
It was
as I
almost
was,
pitiful.
yes, as much as I was happy that she was getting a role that it was on, she
Mhm.
was getting paid, get your money, good, 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 good. I hated it. I hated the persona that they gave her because they gave her this powerful persona that succumbs to this weakness,
But we adapt to cope.
and everything is okay with that. Like
Yeah.
that's the same reason I didn't like being Mary Jane. I'm like, she is over here kicking behind at her job and all the stuff that she is doing for these men. She is dating a whole married man and justifying why she should be doing. It was just so. I'm like, so this is the picture that we now paint of us.
But you know what happened? She lacked affirmation from her dad. Come on. Let's I mean, she lacked their relationship was horrible.
This is why it is important.
Come
This
on.
is why it is important, ladies, for you to have. I can't stress enough how it makes a difference. Like for me, thank God I have my uncle
Mhm.
now because he's able to kind of step in and do some of that. But growing up, it was rough. Okay. Because I'm like, where I don't know how a man is supposed to be.
Mhm.
So because I don't know how a man is supposed to really, really be, I keep choosing the wrong ones because I don't understand what they're supposed to be
And
anyway.
so when they show up with disrespect,
I
when they
think it's
show up with
normal.
disregard, right?
I think it's normal because hey, this must be how they act.
When they come super late and they don't fulfill promises, because you know what? If the dad never filled them, so then it becomes that's what I expect.
They said they set the standard if you don't already have a standard set.
And we don't realize their silence set a standard. Their
Silence,
silence
the silence and the absence sets a standard
that I'm not good enough.
that I don't matter, that I'm not important enough because if I was, you would be here,
Mhm.
and you are not.
And we
And
can go,
we
oh,
internalize that like it's a us thing.
and so sometimes, and this is a whole another session, if you've ever studied a level of mental illness, when people have split personalities, they've compartmentalized the trauma
And each
and created
time,
somebody new to cope.
to help them overcome, to combat that, this is the person that protects them.
Yes,
You ever notice that? I've
absolutely.
always noticed that every time they show
Mhm.
this, it's like you
Yeah.
always got one that protects you from everything else that's happening.
And it's unhealthy, but it's coping.
But it is coping. I want to get to really, really quick. Woo! We unpacking it today. So let me just really, really get to. I want to do a cave promo right quick. Let's tell the people about the cave.
Listen, I'm so excited. The cave is all of this. The cave is
We deal with all of this.
we deal with all of this because my goal in life is that women are healthy and whole and fulfill purpose confidently. I want you to be beautiful. I don't want you to be beautiful and broken. I want you to be beautiful, understanding purpose, walking in your authority, coming to network, coming to develop lifelong relationships that could change your life. I believe women thrive with accountability, surrounded in a village of women that love you and support you. So this year, our focus is Weep, the Cry of the Intercessor. It's about us learning how to pray effectively, teaching us language to pray not amiss, but to pray with the promises of God in mind. And so meet us April 25th, 26th. It's a small investment for your future. Business women, you need this. Women in every sphere of influence, you need to come to the cave. It'll anchor you, it'll remind you, it'll reset you, restore you, allow you to cry and not have on the hat of I have to be strong. That's a whole nother thing we'll talk about. And so meet us at the cave. It's $150 for general admission, $175 if you want this real nice swag bag and have VIP seating. But it's been more expensive, but God just really put it on my heart to try to reduce it so everybody has access to it. So it's at the Doubletree in Downers Grove, April the 25th. We'll kick off at 7 o'clock at night. 6:30, come meet us in the lobby, take photos. We have a phenomenal host that's going to meet you. Sade is a whole vibe. So she will be there to greet you and encourage you as you get ready to enter into the cave
And
experience.
Pastor Shonda is real sweet, y'all. So if y'all actually got to walk up to her, she actually will say hi to you, just so you know.
And that's sad that
That
that's
you have
brand
to
new.
say that. But
That's
she
not
will actually,
normal. But I am regular,
but she will actually
you
acknowledge
know.
that you said something to her. Amen. All
Amen.
right. So just so y'all know, registration still closes on the 31st. So y'all better hurry up and get your registrations in. The link is in the description on both YouTube and Facebook. So get in. Get your registration done. You do not want to miss it. We all filled up, but I guess you can find a hotel somewhere.
But
Okay.
wait, listen, I got 4 rooms that opened up. So if you want to stay at the Doubletree, we have that still 4 rooms.
Oh, come on.
Only God could do that. Some
Only God can do it. Only
only God.
God can do it.
Listen, we have no sense, but we love God. And then the Holiday Inn, which is about 2 or 3 minutes away, we have that hotel as well.
Amen. All right, we're
Mhm.
going to get back into it. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is Empowering Moments with Coach T right here on IntellectualRadio.com. And we have been knee deep in exploring the pieces of us as women, Black women in particular, with my pastor, Shonda Burns. So we're going to get right back into it. We're going to shift it into emotional pieces of a woman, okay? So, Black women often take on significant emotional labor in both personal and professional settings, whether it's caring for family members, managing work dynamics, or supporting their communities. This role of caregiver and emotional supporter can be fulfilling, but it may also create emotional burnout due to the constant giving of energy and attention without enough care in return. So it can be draining, okay? What are the emotional impacts of always being the strong one in a group? And how can Black women create space for their own emotional needs? Because I feel like that's me all the time. I'm the strong one. I'm like, I point at everybody else. Can't nobody point into me at all. Where they at?
Well, one of the things I would say, the emotional impact of always being the strong one is burnout. and also losing your authenticity because you're just showing up for people. And is it pure? Is it intentional? And so you could become somewhat of a robot. So you will burn out. You will lose passion. You will be frustrated, and somebody is going to get the brunt of that. And it might not be the one that you're showing up for. It might be the ones in your home that need you. So you could be the strong one for everybody else in your family. Your spouse, your children might suffer. And so some of the things that I think that you could do to create this space so your emotional needs are met. And I think it's really hard, but it goes back to us compartmentalizing things, being honest and saying what you need. And that sounds so simple, right? But I don't think we were always taught that. We,
As women, we're not taught to speak up like that. You know
but
what I
but
mean?
I'm learning it, and I teach it, being honest and saying what you need. And here's the kicker: saying what you need looks like.
That is
Now
key.
that get the revelation of that, because I've
That's
learned
key.
this in premarital counseling, because a lot of times we look at our love languages and we'll say, I need acts of service. And so my husband might think, I'm going to give you a gift. Well, acts of service to me is me coming outside and there's gas in my car, that you've done my oil
Come
change,
on.
you've taken out the gas, I mean, the garbage, and I didn't ask for it, doing little things around the house. And so he's thinking that he's meeting my need, but in fact, he's not. But most of us give to people what we need instead of what they need and what it looks like.
And then we act like, oh, but I did this one, but that's not what I needed. I
No.
didn't really realize it until I was watching it. I'm telling y'all be talking about me because I watch this ratchet TV, but I be learning. So
What not to do.
yes, I be learning. And I be learning some things to do, okay? Because they be missing some stuff. But Nene was going through this thing with her husband. We all know Greg Leaks passed away. But she was going through this with him, and he was sick, and they were trying to figure out how to support her
Mhm.
through that, and they were doing little things, and she was saying, nobody supported me, nobody has helped me, nobody. And they're like, but we called you and we took you out to dinner and we da da da. And she's
But
like,
it's so
but that's not
important.
what I needed. And she said, but that didn't help. And everybody was like, but you didn't tell nobody that wasn't
But I
getting
don't.
it.
But I don't think we know. We haven't been. What I am learning is that our parents didn't usually have a guide,
No, they didn't
because
teach
their
us.
generation was taught, just watch me and learn from that, not necessarily
Oh
a
God.
conversation,
And
a
please
conversation,
don't ask too many questions, because I'm frustrated with your questions because I don't have time to answer them.
because it could be viewed as dishonor,
Yes.
disrespect to our elders. And
Yes.
so I'm learning that I have to say what I need and what that looks like, because if I'm grieving, I don't need conversation, I need presence.
Just sit and be quiet.
I might not want you to cook, but I might need you to be there. I might not want you to come clean my house, because I might think that that's invasive and you think that you're doing that is helping me. I don't want company that I have to tend to while I'm grieving.
Hmm.
So I am learning to say what I need. If you don't learn anything from today, what I need and what that looks like for me, because most people give you what they need. Because even in counseling, I will say to a couple, what do you need? And the wife will say it, and I will ask the husband, what did she say? And he will say something totally different.
Completely different.
So it's learning how to communicate your needs clearly, articulately, and not being afraid, and understanding you deserve that. Because the strong one usually is used to meeting everybody's needs and their last. Learning self-care, learning that self-care isn't selfish. And if it's selfish,
It's necessary.
it's necessary.
It's necessary selfishness, and I've come to that conclusion.
And it's okay.
Sometimes there's a such thing as necessary selfishness, and what that means is right now I need to tend to me, because if I don't tend to me, I'm really no good to you.
Absolutely.
I
And
can't
but we we
continue to
we
pour
we
on
should
an
learn that though.
I can't continue to pour. And I say this all the time. I can't continue to pour from an empty cup.
One of the things
I
that I
can't.
learned, and if you're a person that's faith-based and you read the scripture, and I recently got the revelation of this. Jesus was training and developing and discipling 12 men. But when you study the scripture, it says he got up a great while before day to be alone. So he could be alone. So what? He could be poured into to pour into them.
Absolutely.
He didn't
Absolutely.
even take one of them.
No, I need to be here by myself.
And so he taught us and modeled self-care. We didn't call it that,
We didn't call it that because they didn't call it that in the Bible. But I'm telling you,
but
when
it's
we
a
look at it,
revelation
it's
of
that.
it. Self-care, the strong, you will burn out, you will fail, and you can keep going and going and going and going and going. And how healthy is it if one day you just shut down and need a month off instead of
And
taking a
that's what
day
we
off
exactly. That's
every
what
other
you
week?
don't want. You don't want to have to get to the point where you are depleted, so to the point that you can't do anything, and so your body is like, I can't help you.
And then what'll happen, it's not just going to be that you need to rest, it's going to impact you emotionally, physically, and that month off might impact you financially. So, how healthy was it for you to not proactively say what you need?
Absolutely. I want to get into trauma and healing. Again, this is going to be happening at the cave. Uh, the emotional toll of historical and contemporary trauma, whether related to racism, discrimination, community, social, and familial interactions, or the loss of loved ones, can deeply affect Black women's mental and emotional health. While trauma is reality for many, healing and recovery are essential aspects of their emotional well-being, and often these journeys involve navigating cultural practices and personal growth. So, how can Black women find spaces for emotional healing that respect their culture, practices, and lived experiences with trauma?
And I think the next question, they kind of go hand in hand. One of the things is finding out what works for you. If that means that you're going to go to counseling, if that means you're going to have a church group, if that means you have an exercise group, even if you have a chat and chew with 4 or 5 women that's consistent, because you need safe spaces to unload, but you want to unload around women that can pour back. You don't just unload and unload and unload, and you're going to live depleted. So I have intentionally surrounded myself with a pastor that has pastored longer than me. I have a mentor in the medical field that has practiced longer than me. I have a mentor. I'm a new general manager for my company. I have an administrator that's been an administrator for 40 years. I have my mom. I have my aunt. I'm surrounded by women that I could find strength in, I could find wisdom in. I even have some men that I can call, that I'm surrounded by, that I could be a daughter, that I could be a friend, that I could be a sister, that I could be all of these things exclusive of my role in the marketplace, exclusive of my role at church. I don't have to be a pastor around my pastor. I could be her daughter. I can be her daughter and get poured into, that helps me be a more effective pastor, that helps me be a more effective leader. So, intentionally finding those places of comfort, of safety, but you have to look for them. And it has to be intentional. It can't be that I'm going on a retreat um twice a year. No, maybe you'll find that twice a year is too infrequent for
It's
you,
long, too long of a
too
gap.
long. So, what are you doing on a monthly basis? Who do you set your goals with? Because it can't just be you. Who's judging it? Who's holding you accountable?
Who's holding you
What
accountable?
accountability partners do you have that are helping you follow? Why haven't you met that goal? Because that was really attainable for you in this quarter. Who are you submitting your plans? We understand the scriptures that his plans for us are good, but who is judging it? Because it can't just be him. Because how could they learn without a teacher? So who have we submitted ourselves to? So you need accountability, you need safe spaces, but you have to intentionally find them, and also identify when there's been a breach in that safe place that caused more trauma.
I like it. I like it. That is key. Find it. You got to know when there's a breach. The other thing I want to get to as we are wrapping up, I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about how we navigate the challenge of being both deeply involved in our community, deeply being involved in our worship, and also being able to still advocate for ourselves in the marketplace. Because again, we compartmentalize and we act like, what we do at church and what we do at work is separate. And I know that we've always talked about marrying the two. And I'm trying to get you to tell the people how important that is, because I think we forget or we don't recognize that all this compartmentalization actually is bothersome.
One of the things that I've learned, and this is like my jam right here, finding the merger of the marketplace and ministry. The merger comes in finding purpose. Because one of my purposes in life is to bring awareness to through new information, through a heightened level of understanding, so you could be whole. And that doesn't just work in the church. I look at what I'm doing now as a general manager. I have about 15 people that I am their direct supervisor. I am discipling them on how to be effective, how to do their job, how to use me as a resource. It's the same thing as what I do as a
As being
pastor.
a pastor.
But what has happened for so long, how could you be an attorney? How could you work at a bank and not work in finances at the church? Because distinctively, we've kept that apart in ministry. But there has to become a merger, and the merger is being anchored in purpose.
I love how you say that, because for me, I teach in church and I love that. But then I do something else completely different at work. And I was like, this is why you can't stand being at work. Because it took me a long time to understand
we've
it.
been taught to compartmentalize it.
Yes,
Like, because
because
they'll need you to be deep at work. They don't, but they need your skill set.
right, because I'm a teacher and now I'm teaching as an adjunct professor. I'm like, oh my God, yes,
And
yes,
it brings
yes,
you
yes,
peace,
yes,
and you
yes,
love it,
yes,
and you
yes,
prepare
yes.
for it, and it's not a weight, and you don't feel, because you're anchored in purpose.
Do you know how excited I get every time I get ready to teach? I'm like, yes, I get to go teach. Even if I'm not, even if I'm still trying to figure out how to get my students to get excited and to get engaged, I'm still excited that I'm teaching, because I'm like, yes.
But let me give you the revelation. Let me give you the revelation that you can still do that in HR, because it's being anchored in purpose and seeing it through a heightened and an expanded lens. There is something called peripheral vision. So I don't just see what's in front of me, I see what's out to the side of me. So when you have a person sitting in your office and you're going to teach them about their benefits, teach them what they have access to, it's a different mindset. It's not like, oh, I'm just going here to, no, I'm showing up in my purpose, and my purpose shows up wherever I go. It's related to me. It's not related to where I'm at, because I'm showing up. When Jesus showed up on the scene, he showed up doing miracle signs and wonders. It wasn't limited to the church. He was outside. He went from city to city doing his purpose.
Okay, she discipling me, y'all. Just want y'all to know.
I want
She
us
discipling me, y'all.
to function in purpose.
I love it.
And because it took me to my late 40s to get the revelation of showing up in purpose, it's not compartmentalized to the four walls of church. That's so limiting.
It is.
I was a nurse for a long time, and when I'm going to my patient's room, I'm still showing up in purpose, educating them on their insulin, educating them on their diet, educating them on the importance of drinking water and what it does for their body. I'm a teacher.
I love it.
I don't have to show up as a title of a nurse. That's my title,
Right.
But my purpose is to function in that.
All right. So we got to wrap up here. Thank you so much, Pastor Shonda, for being with me today. This is so much fun. I love having her here. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Empowering Moments with Coach T right here on IntellectualRadio.com. Tune in next month for another episode, and we will see you soon. Until then, I am the Coach T. Keep walking and just be you. Bye, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. On Facebook, we love y'all. Bye. You'll be empowered, engaged intellectually. Just be inspired. Embrace some positivity. Chilling for you. Approaching it deductively. Money and power.